Call to order the Board of County Commissioners work session for June 23rd, 2015. Welcome everybody. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. First item on the agenda is to approve the work session agenda. Madam Manager, do you have any changes?
There are no changes.
So moved. Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Motion passes. The purpose of the county work session is to inform the Grant County Board of Commissioners of the agenda items that will be addressed at the next regular meeting, and for the department heads and other elected officials to communicate with the commissioners in regard to matters of the respective departments. In accordance with the Grant County Resolution 1501, we welcome the public to attend county work sessions. However, there will be no public input today. Next item on the agenda is to review the June 25th, 2015 regular meeting agenda. Madam Manager.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, public hearing. We will have another public hearing discussing the increasing the size of the Board of Commissioners from 3 to 5 members. Mr. Sharp from Research and Polling will be here again to give another brief presentation and answer any questions that may have come up. The minutes are in your packets for you to review. Moving on to financial reports. Linda, if you would please present the June 22nd, 2015 expenditure report.
I will. Thank you, members and commissioners, members of the board, and Mr. Chairman. In front of you, you have an expenditure report for approval in the total of $2,168,284.02. Included in this packet is a total amount for AP checks in the $1,738,476.74. Included in this total is a check to Ascent Aviation for May Fuel in the amount of $38,699.87. A check to USDA Wildlife Services for January through March 2015 services in the amount of $15,550.75. A check to Solid Waste Authority for April tipping fees in the amount of $41,450.95. A check to New Mexico State University for the extension services, the third quarter of fiscal year 2015, in the amount of $16,250. A check to Wright Express Fleet Services for May Fuel in the amount of $26,180.39. A check to Bank of Albuquerque for the GRT Revenue Bond Debt Service in the amount of $270,970.17. A check to Healthcare Partners for the June 2015 Inmate Medical Services in the amount of $14,545.20. And a check to the New Mexico Human Services Department for the fiscal year 2015 fourth quarter Safety Net Care Pool in the amount of $99,040.83. Then there's a payroll check reporting for pay periods number 11 and 12 for the total of $429,807.28. Thank you.
Would like to move into the cash flow analysis for the period ending 4/30/2015.
This is for the month ending April 30th, 2015. And we had an actual cash balance at the beginning of July 1, 2014 of $2,379,621 with revenues through the end of April of $6,941,262. We had transfers to date out of $1,218,882. From operating expenses to date of $2,365,962, and salaries and benefits through date of $4,843,166. So the actual cash balance at the end of April was $882,873. and we have a projected surplus of $55,341 at the end of June. In the road department, the actual cash balance at July 1 was $120,460. Revenues through the end of April are $544,217. Transfers to date of $506,238 in. Operating expenditures through the end of April of $226,303.67. Salaries and benefits to date of $1,051,574. With an actual cash balance at the end of April 30th of a negative $106,963. Again, that negative cash balance is because that cash transfer took place in May. So we won't see that till the May report. So we have a projected surplus at the end of June 30th of $204,439. In the correction fund, we had a beginning cash balance on July 1 of $26,163. Revenues to date of $867.12. Transfers to date of $835,132 transfer in. Operating expenditures of $510,696. Salaries and benefits of $1,611,874. Leaving us an actual cash balance at the end of April of a negative $394,263, and again, it's that cash transfer that took place in May, and with a projected cash balance of $22,128.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, item D, you'll have a final report from the Silver City Arts and Cultural District for fiscal year 15. Item E, approve or disapprove Grant County acting as the fiscal agent for the Grant County Health Council. Priscilla, do you want to speak on behalf of the Health Council?
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. I just wanted to start off by saying I want to thank Gila Regional Medical Center for really taking on this endeavor a few years ago to keep the Health Council going when the funds were dwindling, and in some cases for some of the health councils around the state. Is it not on? Well, some of the health councils around the state did not really receive any funding to keep going. Our program was able to be kept going as a result of Gila Regional Medical Center. So I want to publicly say thank you to Brian for allowing us to keep this program going, because we know that I feel like in our work it's all about the bigger picture, and what's going on with health issues in the community also affects every other angle of what we're doing in our communities to improve the quality of life. So we are requesting from the Grant County Community Health Council, and myself as the chair, to request Grant County to take over fiscal services for the Grant County Community Health Council. It is with the understanding that we know that there's been a minimal amount of dollars that have been allocated at the state level for the health councils, and so our attempt is every year to try to increase those dollars. But we know, just like everything else, the monies are tight. So with that, our intent is to be able to bring the dollars forward that we currently have. We're very fortunate that we have quite a bit of dollars that we had as part of the foundation, and we had in reserve that could potentially have an employee for approximately 2 years. And so with that intent, our intent would be that whether we go with a county employee or a contractor, that one of the tasks of that individual be that they try to seek additional funding to keep the Health Council program going. And so that's kind of just a general overview. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or any thoughts or suggestions, I'd be happy to hear.
Any questions? No, I don't have any. No, happy to do it. I think Health Council is I used to be a member, and it does great things for this community, so you're a big part of the community. Thank you for your report.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Priscilla. And there would be no additional dollars provided by the county, so we would be acting as fiscal agent only. Next item approve, disapprove reappointment of Teresa Dahl Bradeen for the Lodgers Tax Committee. Her letter is in your packet. Item G, approve, disapprove one applicant to the Grant County at-large position for the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. You have interest from Susan, I'm going to slaughter her name, Eichhoff, and Mark Richard.
What is the difference?
I guess we've never had these appointments on the same agenda, because I did not realize that we had a Lodgers Tax Committee and a Lodgers Tax Advisory Board.
Actually, it's the same thing. We should probably have that
Okay.
cleaned up.
All right.
But one is an at-large
We
position,
can
the
fix
other
that,
is,
all right.
yeah.
I
So, I
thought
didn't
maybe
notice
you were
that.
slipping something in on me.
No. We'll fix that. Next, item H, approve, disapprove 2 board members to the Gila Regional Medical Center Board of Trustees. You have letters of interest from Jeremiah Garcia, Joel Schramm, Tony Trujillo, and Magdaleno Manzanares. And those are all in your packets for review. I believe they're also emailed to you. Item I, approve, disapprove Grant County Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Randy, do you want to give a brief update on that, please?
Well, I just want to introduce Mr. Ralph Pope, who got a grant last year from State Forestry and the New Mexico Association of Counties to update the 2009 countywide protection plan. And Ralph, if you want to say, if you got anything to say about that on anything, I'd appreciate it. But so we're going to bring it before you to approve it, and then let Ralph talk about the living document and how we go forward with it.
Good morning, Ms. Paul.
Morning. Yes, as Randy said, I was hired by the Grant Soil and Water Conservation District, who had grant money to update this plan. And I want to stress that this was not a rewrite or redo of the plan. It was just to go through and find the things that were out of date, bring them up to date, and then talk with the actual firefighting agencies to see what they felt may be needed to make it work better. And that's the process we went through to update it. We didn't try to go back and start from ground zero and rewrite a new plan. So just so you know, it's carrying forward a lot of the stuff that's been done in the past. Now, some of the things that we discussed was trying to not only get a plan written or updated, but to see if we could try some things to implement it a little bit better. And that's why we're talking about trying to make it into more of a living document where we have the capability to continually update as things change, as conditions change on the ground and whatnot, be able to bring it to a core team of members and update or continue to keep the plan current. And I think if we were to do that, it would be a lot more useful tool for the county and for the volunteer fire departments and for the agencies. So that's one of the things that we're trying to stress in this current plan. Other than that, there was a few updates on the risk hazards acts for some of the volunteer fire departments. They went through all of the past records they had in there and updated and changed. You know, there were a lot of things like they've added water storage capabilities, they have a new fire engine, stuff like that was brought forward and put into this plan, so it is current. And then they also looked at what they felt was their risk factor. Some of the fire departments did update it from like a high to a very high or like that. I don't think anything went down in risk, but a lot of them stayed the same. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we did with this plan, and we do need to bring it before you to get approval. It also has to be approved by the State Forester's Office, and I've been working very closely with Doug Boykin and whatnot, and he's reviewed and is very comfortable with this plan. So,
Can you tell me what the criteria was used to rate from high to, what was it, the other one, very high or whatever it was? What the difference was, and because it didn't look like anything wasn't high.
Well, a lot of it is based on the judgment of the volunteer fire department. Originally, when it was written and the original ratings were done, it's based on the fuel accumulations and then the capability of the agencies or the fire departments to be able to respond to a threat or a risk.
Did they look at structures, or was it wildland
Yeah,
only?
it's the interface. You know, it's really based on the wildland-urban interface, the interface between the community and the wildlands, and the fuel loading, and then the capabilities of the agencies and the volunteer fire departments to actually respond to a fire in that interface. And a lot of things that change it is, you know, if they do fuel reduction projects, or if they get, like, the Wind Canyon currently went through all the steps and procedures to become a fire-wise community, which means they brought the community together. They're doing treatments and things to their own property, doing things to their structures, to access, to water availability. All kinds of factors go into it. And so, I mean, what we didn't want to do is go back and try to redo that process and change a lot of those factors. We just looked at what was done in the past and looked to see if there was anything that has changed that would change those past ratings. And that's why we didn't go back through a reanalysis of what the fuel loading is, or reanalysis of this or that. We were pretty comfortable with all the work that's been done in the past as being fairly accurate. What we didn't know is what had changed between 2009 and 2015, and that's what we tried to capture.
So how often do you look at this to review it, to change it, or to leave it alone?
Well, it's been kind of a practice to do it every 5 years, but we would like to make it a living document, so where when things change, we don't wait 5 years to go back and see if something's changed. That's kind of why what we're trying to implement with this is, you know, because people, you know, mainly the federal agencies, the state agencies that deal with firefighting, they know what they've done or what has happened constantly, you know, in this wildland-urban interface, and they could very well keep this thing updated, you know, routinely, just keep it updated and current, and that's what we're trying to put together and get implemented.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and I think from a rural fire chiefs association standpoint, that will be from the volunteer fire departments would be doing the same thing as we move forward and we see different projects. I think PA from State Forestry is doing a lot of work up there. So as we continue to do those projects and as we continue to get a reduction or mitigation in the fuel levels, then those will be consistently updated. Because waiting from 2009 to 2015, as you well know, it's pretty much back to where it was in 2009. But if we can continue to have an open document, have public input, and get all of that, and continue to update the document annually, bringing all the stakeholders together, I think it gives us a better tool to work with.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention is we were looking at the ICO watershed group that this, you know, you guys have formed, as not to so much be the core team, but be the venue where people can bring things and whatnot. I think the core team really needs to be the action agencies, and you know, but all the action agencies are part of the Echo Watershed Group, and so I think that would be a good venue where people could bring information, ideas, concerns to the Echo Watershed Group, you know, routinely, and then it could be considered and action taken if needed to update or change something in the plan.
Go ahead. Do you happen to know, because I'm sitting here looking at the signature page, and it's a full page long of people going to sign off on this agreement. Has anybody signed it already?
No.
We're going to be the first ones?
Yeah, we wanted your approval first before we go pursue any other.
Oh, that's why our name's on top?
Yeah. Well, by law, there's 3 people that have to sign this. It's the commission, the fire management or fire chief for the county, and the state forester's office, and that's part of the Healthy Forest Act. I mean, it's spelled out in the federal act who is the approving entities of this document. The others are concurring and stating that they're, you know, willing to work with and work under this. So that's kind of how that's broke down.
Okay. I have no further questions. Okay. Thank you, sir. Report. Go ahead.
Next, item J, approve, disapprove donation of 0.918 acres of land from the Friends of the Fire and Rescue Volunteers for the construction of a fire station for the Pinos Altos Volunteer Fire Department. There's a copy of a warranty deed in your packet to donate this property to the county in order for the PA Volunteer Fire Department to build a station. There is a reverter clause in this deed that if the property is not used for a fire station within 3 years, then this property will revert back to the Friends of the Volunteer Fire Department.
And heard that.
Have all the easements to this property been satisfactorily checked out? Because I knew there was one across Forest, one across maybe State.
Lucy assured me when I met with her that they were. Do you want to speak on that? She wouldn't let me have a survey. She wouldn't let me have a survey.
Hello, I'm Lucy Whitmarsh, and I'm representing the Friends of the Fire and Rescue Volunteers who currently have ownership of the lot that we would like to donate to the county for the purposes of a fire station. And yes, we do have recorded easements for access to the lot. One is from the forestry. There are 2 land ownerships and there are 2 easements to access to Bear Mountain Road.
Do we have the survey?
I do
have a
have
survey?
one.
Remember, you wouldn't leave the survey for, remember you had one copy and you said you would get another? Did you ever get that?
I don't have it copied, but I can do that, and I can provide you with that.
We'll probably need that before Thursday.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, it just, no. We just discussed it with Wes at length after you left.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Okay, going to K.
Actually, we'll need to add a new item to new business. It will be the appointment of the County Valuation Protest Board, which is for the Assessor's Office. There are 3 names being recommended: Paul, help me now, Chano, Georgia Barrett, and Sylvia Mikes. And I believe all 3 of these have served previously and are willing to serve again.
Yes.
And this is your recommendation?
That's correct, sir.
Next item, under contracts and agreements, approve, disapprove agreement A15-12, work and financial plan between Grant County and the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services for fiscal year 16. That assigns 1 wildlife specialist for a year, averaging 859 hours per year in Grant County for addressing animal control, predatory damage, nuisance, etc. Total of $28,500, which was included in your budget. Any questions? Item L, approve, disapprove agreement A15-13, agreement between the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, and Grant County for the DWI grant agreement for the Baton. No, that's incorrect too. It would just be for the DWI. It's LD, we'll change this, for the LDWI grant program. The DWI Council has awarded Grant County $95,000 for DWI activities. This is the annual agreement, which you look at every year, that provides funding for Cindy's programs. There's an in-kind match of $15,000 on the county's behalf. Any questions on that one?
That has the Tom building.
Yeah.
I thought, why are we getting money from DWI for the Baton building?
With a program in or something.
Item M, approve, disapprove agreement A15-14, which is the agreement between Grant County on behalf of the Silver City Airport and Bohannon Houston Consulting, and this is for the master consulting for the airport master plan. You approved this bid. This is just the contract that goes along with that bid. Next, item N, approve, disapprove agreement A15-15, contract between Grant County and North Central New Mexico Economic Development District, non-metro area agency on aging, contract number 2015-16-68047 for the direct purchase of services vendor agreement and nutrition service incentive program agreement. In your packet for review, this provides, says not to exceed $455,410. Terry's here if you have any questions you have on behalf of these agreements. No?
I don't.
Item O, approve, disapprove agreement A15-16, contract between Grant County and North Central New Mexico Economic Development District, non-metro area agency on aging, contract number 2015-16-64011 for senior employment program agreement. Also goes to senior programs in the amount of $43,530 for the senior employment program, which Terry also provides. And he's here if you have any questions on that. Okay. Item P, approve, disapprove agreement A15-17. This is agreement between the Grant County DWI program and Chris Helgert, doing business as a recovery management center to provide services for treatment services on behalf of the DWI program. Item Q is another DWI agreement. Agreement A15-18, agreement between Grant County DWI program for professional services with Arlene Hoblin. Same thing, she provides the ADE assessments, and this is part of Cindy's DWI programs. Item R, approve, disapprove agreement A15-19. This is an MOU between the Grant County DWI program and the Baird Police Department, also one of Cindy's annual contracts. This is for the Baird Police Department to provide DWI enforcement during certain times of the year. Item S, approve, disapprove agreement A15-20. It's a memorandum of understanding between the Grant County DWI program and the Grant County Sheriff's Department. Same thing as the Baird Police Department, providing enforcement, saturation patrols for DWI activities. Item T, approve, disapprove agreement A15-21, which is a memorandum of understanding between the Grant County DWI program and the Silver City Police Department. Same thing. Agreement, approve, disapprove agreement A15-22, an agreement for the provision of animal control services in the unincorporated portions of Grant County, New Mexico. This is the Humane Society agreement. It's for the same amount of $66,000, and it's similar to agreements you've approved in the past. Correct? No changes? Exactly the same. Exactly the same. And Abby has reviewed it. Item V, W, and X will all be new items. Approve, disapprove agreement A15-23, which is a professional services agreement with Gary Staley for the Restorative Justice Program. This is an agreement that is entered in and paid for by the Restorative Justice Program grant funding, and he takes care of most of the community service outreach work plans with the youth in the communities. Item W is another contract for the same program. So it would be agreement A15-24, a professional services agreement with Laura Ramanarash for the Strengthening Families Program. This is also one of the grants through the JPO program This was the new one. Bianca explained this to us when we approved this several months back. Next item, approve agreement A15-25, which is a professional services agreement with Robert Torres, also for the Strengthening Families Program. Any questions on any of those? No?
Most of the time, we don't see these agreements do less than $20,000.
Well, one of them was more, and the other two were less, and so for
Just
just
brought 'em all.
for continuity, for you to sign one and me to sign the other two, I just put them all on there. Moving on to resolutions. Approve, disapprove Resolution R15-14. This is a resolution to enter into cooperative agreement between the County of Grant and the New Mexico Department of Transportation for improvement of roads within Grant County. This resolution is for co-op projects which install 2 concrete low water crossings and drainage improvements on CPAR Road. There'll be 2 of them. Estimated amount of these projects are $77,407. DOT will fund 75% of that in the amount of $58,055. The county matches with 25% in the amount of $19,352. And Earl will be here, except he's chip sealing.
100 degrees, that's nice.
Next item, approve, disapprove Resolution R15-15, a resolution to enter into cooperative agreement between the County of Grant and the New Mexico Department of Transportation for the improvement of roads within Grant County. This resolution is for the school bus program, school bus routes, and it will provide single penetration chip seal with drainage improvements on Fairway Drive, Flurry Lane, Morales Road, and Western Drive. Total estimated amount of these projects, $75,256. DOT will fund 75% of that, in the amount of $56,442. The county will match 25% of that, $18,814. And I would clarify that the match is in kind. Next item, AA on your agenda, approve, disapprove Resolution R15-16, a resolution to enter into cooperative agreement between the County of Grant and the New Mexico Department of Transportation for the improvement of roads within Grant County. This would be for the CAPS projects. Scope of work on this are single penetration chip seal with shoulder work, drainage, and striping on Antelope Run, chip sealing on Bonita Avenue, Broken Arrow, Cottage Sand Road, Fawn Court, Lynx Lane, Nickus Road, North Swan, Opal Drive, Spear Drive, and Kilimanjaro Court. Estimated total of these projects, $186,371. DOT portion, $139,778. The county's 25% in kind, $46,593. Next item. This is approve, disapprove Resolution R15-17, a resolution approving the joint powers agreement to create the New Mexico unit of the Central Arizona project pursuant to the Arizona Water Settlements Act. This resolution is included in your pack as well as the JPA, which I know you've all had a chance to review. And Anthony is prepared for questions, as well as the rest of the staff, should you, or do you just want to make a statement?
Get a mic. Lean back and relax. Because we got pages of questions for you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, I hope I'm prepared to answer all the questions. There's certainly always a bunch of questions when pertaining to the Arizona Water Settlements Act. The resolution in front of you is directly related to a JPA that's been approved by the Interstate Stream Commission. The Interstate Stream Commission has actually passed a resolution to include themselves as a member, as a non-voting member to the CAP entity. The CAP entity is described. The entity of the state of New Mexico authorized assume responsibility for the design, construction, operation, maintenance, and replacement costs of the New Mexico unit. don't need to go on to describe the New Mexico unit. The New Mexico unit is potentially a project under the Arizona Water Settlements Act that would divert up to 140,000 acre-feet of water from the Gila River in a 10-year period. Of course, a question of a diversion project has been dwelling for probably, 10, 11 years now. And we certainly haven't hammered out everything related to a diversion project, but this is a series of things that have to happen in order for a potential unit to even enter the NEPA process. Last year, on November 24th, 2014, Interstate Stream Commission did give notice to the Secretary of Interior on a potential New Mexico unit. And according to the statute, they were required within a one-year process to have a New Mexico unit agreement. Now, in order to have a New Mexico unit agreement, a New Mexico CAP entity must be formed. And the Gila San Francisco Water Commission had requested that the Interstate Stream Commission appoint the Gila San Francisco Water Commission as the New Mexico CAP entity. They felt that the CAP entity members had to be individually appointed, and that through a JPA they could enter into this agreement. And so henceforth we have the JPA in front of you now. It's been several months of trying to get everything that everybody wanted into the JPA. I'm assuming it's not a perfect document, but we did work diligently on trying to, number one, protect the entities involved in the joint powers agreement. Second, give them some leeway on how the money could be spent and how additional funds could be generated. And so now we're kind of in a crunch time. The Secretary of Interior has until November 23rd, 2015 to sign the agreement. Then henceforth the NEPA process will begin, and by December 31st, 2019, the Secretary of Interior will issue a record of decision based on the NEPA process. And so, well, not only the NEPA process, but what's been deemed as a 30% design of the project. So I would stand for any questions. That's kind of an overview of what's happening, why we are currently at the stage we're in. Joint Powers Agreement was a recommendation, of course, from the Interstate Stream Commission. They are the agency responsible to appoint the CAP entity, and so therefore we are. I'll certainly stand for any questions on not only the process but how potentially we got there.
You want to go first? Sure.
All right.
You want to say, as you know, we've talked at length about the JPA. Far from being good, full of gaps, broad, and sometimes difficult to even understand. My biggest job, I'm making this statement, then we'll go to some questions, is going to figure out how we're going to be able to, as a county, as the party, one of the parties, to work with this JPA and still be able to protect the county and the citizens of this county. My first question, and I'd like for you to go into detail about it, are these projects, and that's one of the problems, we don't know which project, are these projects economically feasible, and why? Why are they feasible?
Commissioner Hall, well, that's yet to be determined. Right now, there's just a number of alternatives. The alternatives they've been generated up to this point have been generated by kind of interagency communication between the Interstate Stream Commission and the Bureau of Reclamation. I attended a value study last week in Denver, and I kind of had the same questions that you just posed to me. And the feasibility comes from, in my opinion, the value of what comes out of the project, and that is yet to be determined. I'm assuming that in 50 or 100 years from now, potentially the value of the water could be substantially more than it is now. In speaking with, the only part of that that's kind of been left out of the whole equation is that even in the value studies, only cost analysis have been done for these alternatives. There has been no benefit analysis done. So it's kind of difficult to determine value. And that was one of my first questions to the team that was put together by Bureau of Reclamation and ISC, is what type of value or what type of benefit is there for the project? And so that really wasn't studied. And so I'm assuming that is one of the things that, in order to answer the questions that you just asked, what type of benefits? And like I said, I'm assuming the benefit could be greater at some points than it is in others. I'm assuming that we see pretty much in all of southwest United States that the value of any potential water project has continually increased. We see all over.
You know, what you're saying there is the same thing that you heard this several times from me, is that, and I like to use things like this, it puts it in perspective for me, is that it's kind of like walking into a dealership for automobiles, and you're interested in buying, and they're saying, here they all are, right here. We don't know which one, we don't know how much they cost, how many miles they got, if they're new, if they're old, nothing. We just have to go in there and say, okay, I'm going to agree that I'm going to come in here and buy these.
Well, I think
That's typical.
I think before you buy those cars, though, you do a little bit of investigation. You do see how many miles are on the car.
See, we're signing.
And I understand that. I understand that you're signing, but you're not entering into any agreement except to become the JPA is the formation of the CAP entity. It doesn't really, it doesn't put any, and in the act or the JPA itself, it gives Grant County discretion on what, how much or what type of involvement they're going to have. You know, whether it's monetary or a part of the process, or it leaves that discretion open. It says that you may be able to, and if we go to section 3F, and it says section 3F on page number 4. It says the parties agree that they may provide financial support to the extent that they are able to in each party's individual discretion. So I think we worked really hard in being able to put this language in so that the counties could decide whether or not, you know, they wanted to be whether or not there was a financial burden on their entities. We did pose the question. One of the questions that we posed to the Interstate Stream Commission at this time is that there are potentially 4 counties, 2 of which probably have a lot bigger budgets than others, and then the rest of the parties would be, you know, ditch associations and potential water associations, municipal domestics, people that, you know, don't even have a budget at this point. And so I think what the CAP entities the CAP entity needs to do is to find that feasible project. You asked about feasibility of the projects, and I think the intent of the CAP entity is to find that project that's feasible, that provides the most bang for the buck. There's a lot of big numbers out there, but what I did learn this past week is that on all of these studies, the engineering studies that have been done, the Bureau of Reclamation, as a standard, uses 107% contingency. So they do all the calculations. for potential project cost, and then they multiply it by 2 plus. So it's difficult for myself, being that I've been working with engineers for 20, 30 years now, to understand how you can get a potential cost and then you just double it automatically, just in case, just as a buffer. And that's a huge amount of difference between doing actual engineering, getting an actual cost, and then you'll be able to see the feasibility of the project. And so I think that's the point that we're at now.
Well, some of these questions I want to be asking, I know the answer, but I want the public to understand, and you're actually answering to them so that they'll have a better understanding of this JPA. Next question is, what is the purpose of the JPA? That's under page 3, Roman number 2.
Well, I think it explains the purpose, but I think in my own words, the purpose of the JPA is actually to form the capped entity. The CAP entity is a requirement.
And who's in the capped entity?
The capped entities could be any party that is, number one, have to be a recognized subdivision of the state. They have to be a party to a diversion, because the formation of the CAP entity is directly related to a diversion project. And I guess that's probably about the only 2 requirements they have.
So, you just went through what the requirements of those are. Can you give me examples?
Examples of parties?
Who do you, and you don't have to name names, but I mean, what kinds of people do you, or groups do you think are going to potentially sign this agreement?
Mr. Chairman, it's my anticipation that anyone who may benefit from a potential diversion would be entered into the CAP entity. Any disassociation, any potential mutual domestic, a municipal government that potentially could request that an augmentation to their municipal system, a local government, the agricultural community. We've got a lot of irrigators, farmers, ranchers that...
Are those ditch associations?
Most of the time they're ditch
Now,
associations.
is it a ditch association or the ditch itself? Or what part is the political subdivision?
Well, there are some associations regarding that are directly related to joint powers agreements. The ditch associations themselves are the entities that have been assigned as political subdivisions of the state. So it actually has a requirement. The ditch members themselves, not the members, but each individual ditch would have to be a member of the CAP entity.
Okay, thank you for the yield, Commissioner.
Under 5, page 8, explain the statement, the parties to the New Mexico CAP entity acknowledge that without local financial support, the construction of a New Mexico unit may not become a reality.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, that language was inserted because of the concern of the Interstate Stream Commission that without local support, there potentially may not be enough money to build a New Mexico unit.
Say locally. Who is that? Local support.
I'm assuming the parties that enter into the agreement.
Who, which is who?
I tried to just explain that, Commissioner.
Yeah. But
It could be-
you, like you're talking about the counties, you're talking about, I
Well, I'm
mean,
talking about all the...
bottom line, does
We
the
had...
ditch people, do these soil people, do they have funds to pay for this?
I'm
Do
anticipating...
the local entities have funds to pay for this?
I'm assuming that they probably don't, and that's why the language was inserted, that they may or may not. And I think that that was the biggest concern, the discussions that we had, that the the local governments, the local entities didn't want to be on the hook for a potential project that the cap entity would decide. And so they left it up to the discretion of each individual's governing body that they may or may not enter into any of those. And so I think that there are alternatives that could very well be funded with not only the money that we got, but potential revenues that we can get from the water. So I think that there are still a lot of studies to be done, but we already did submit, the Heal San Francisco submitted a finance plan in which I did identify several other revenue sources. And so I think that it's yet to be determined because we don't have a set dollar amount. We have a range from 110 million done on this last value study all the way to 800 plus million. So I think that without having a set dollar amount, without having or being able to identify what that dollar amount is, it's difficult.
And without knowing the project.
Well, and that's directly related to the project.
Yeah.
And then the cost is directly related to the amount of storage that you want to have. The feasibility or the value studies, the way they were conducted is they identified a diversion point, they identified reservoir points, they took into consideration how much water they potentially could store in each one of those areas. They took into consideration how much water they would like to store, which was upward figure of 65,000 acre feet, which is an extremely large reservoir. And so, and then they took into consideration how much a dam would build, how much conveyance to the reservoir would be, and they did what do they call a complete lining of each reservoir, because the geology hasn't quite been done yet. So I think that I'm in agreement, Commissioner, that there's a lot of unanswered things. It's difficult to enter into an agreement that
Like buying that car, huh?
well,
That's the car I want. They say, well, you sign here that you're going to purchase it, but I don't know how much it costs.
I don't think there's any...
on to purchase anything. There's certainly a portion of the JPA that allows the entity to get out, and there's certainly there's an allowance for that, and there's certainly an allowance for people not to enter into any type of financial agreement.
And next, we've already answered, but I'm going to say it again. My major concern is voting for this JPA is I am being asked to sign this agreement without knowing what project and the cost. Can you explain to me which projects you think are going to go forward? That would be
Just-
very helpful for me.
Just in my observation last week, when they vetted each project, the most feasible projects were the projects that actually supplemented the water in the Gila and Burden Valley. The projects that stored water, put it back into the river for irrigation and for environmental impacts. Those were the most feasible projects, which were called the Phase 1 projects.
And we're not going over the Continental Line.
The largest portion of any of the expense of those projects had to do with large storage facility and conveyance to Luna County.
So at this point, we're looking at, one, is that it be for agriculture, two, the health of the river, and we're not going over the mountain.
Those are the most feasible projects.
I like that. Okay, explain your understanding of, and if you'll go to page 4, Roman numeral 3F, it's about the safety net. I call it the safety net. Page 4. Oh, you didn't understand it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, explain your understanding of it.
If I may, my understanding of it, and potentially Abby's understanding of it, she actually assisted in trying to insert this language. She may have a better definition than I do.
I insisted on putting this clause in, but myself and other attorneys and...
Let's go ahead and read it first.
Okay. The parties agree that they may provide financial support to the extent they are able to, and each party's individual discretion is necessary in perpetuity to plan, design, construct, operate, and maintain the New Mexico unit, including without limitation the issuance of bonds, the levy of taxes, the assessment of membership dues, and the assessment of user fees. Now, my understanding is that the ISC had inserted language in there mandating that the members of the JPA would be contributing financially. Now, obviously that caused great concern to the public, to attorneys for the entities involved, and commissioners, public officials. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Because it said shall.
So this is a compromise between the ISC and the potential members. And what we insisted on, the attorneys and the public officials involved, and Anthony, is that it be discretionary. So it went from shall to may. And you can see that in each party's individual discretion, we would determine, not the CAP entity, we would determine, Grant County would determine for itself whether we can put money in. How does that?
I think that's important, and I hope that since, I just think it's important that the parties to me are these, like the county, the cities, and these different agencies who are involved, the ones who are giving you the authority to vote for and speak for our entities, is that you know that we're in control. And we can pull this plug. You're not going to control the county. You're not going to control, they're not going to be able to control the cities. We can pull the plug, or we can stop. Understanding that anything we've agreed to up to that point, we may be responsible. But at some point at the beginning, or some part we don't like, we can pull the plug. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. Another thing to consider is that anything over and above, which I would call cash in hand, would have to go through either some type of bonding or financing. I've been to the bank several times, and usually, and I would say all the time, bank requires, or bonding requires, that you identify revenue sources to pay back that debt. And so without that identification, you don't bond. It's no different than our local governments here bonding, and that bonding is associated with the project and with the revenue source. And so I'm assuming that that's law. And so I'm assuming that any bonding towards this project would be associated with the project itself, the CAP entity, and the revenue sources that's been identified. And so I don't, unless this governing body agrees to pay a portion of that revenue, then I feel that that's an opportunity to say, you know what, we're sorry, but we're not, we don't have the money to do that, and we're not going to.
Let's go into the fiscal agency a little bit. Next question is, explain the purpose of the first and second fiscal agent. It's on page 7 and 8, N, O, P, Q, R, and S. Explain that to me. Who is the first fiscal agent, their responsibilities, the second, what are their responsibilities, and how does it all fit in?
The first fiscal agent is the Interstate Stream Commission.
These are people that the CAP's going to be answering to.
Well, they are I don't know if
You have to, you got to get the budget to them, right?
You have to take a budget to them, that's correct. The JPAs require that you take an annual budget to them of your annual expenditures. Now, they did put provisions up in order to have long-term financing and long-term debt.
Yeah,
inside
you
the
can do
JPA.
that.
But
Through the legislature.
the act itself gave the authority for the New Mexico Unit Fund to the Interstate Stream Commission. The New Mexico Unit Fund is comprised of the $66 million original dollars in 2004 dollars, which has, in layman's terms, should become around $90 million by the time it's all paid. So the Interstate Stream Commission does have a discretion on how to use those funds, except in the fact that it's to be used towards the New Mexico unit. And they've decided that's in the act itself, or potential non-diversion alternatives. Now, the Interstate Stream Commission last November did appropriate funds to the non-diversion alternatives already. And in this JPA and in that same meeting, they pledged not to give any more money to them. As the chairman of the San Francisco Commission, we had some issues with that. All our members have smaller projects. We want to try and figure out a way to fully fund those projects. But the commission was like, you know what, this is the amount of money we're going to allocate for those projects, and the rest goes to a diversion type project.
And the second?
The second fiscal agent is a fiscal agent, and it does have to be from a entity recognized by the state of New Mexico, and it does two things. Number one, it allows the Interstate Stream Commission to reimburse the CAP entity for expenditures. As we mentioned earlier, you have to submit a budget, and at that time, the Interstate Stream Commissioner would approve your budget, and therefore, the second fiscal agent would be the agency in which I think we just approved a fiscal agency for the Health Council, something pretty similar. And so I think that the second part would be if any other revenues were generated outside of the money coming from the federal government, they could also be fiscal agent over those monies. Now, there is language in here that revenue must be used directly towards the design, construction, O&M of the New Mexico unit. And so the money has to totally be used for those purposes, but the second fiscal agent could use those monies and put them in their budgetary process.
Who gives the CAP entity the authority to design, build, operate, and maintain?
Who gives the authority?
Yes.
The Secretary of Interior. At the request of the CAP entity, and it says in the statute, I even looked it up this morning.
It is, when you talk about that, you're talking about on page 10, Roman 5T.
In the JPA, that's where it is.
You're talking the statute?
It's a lot of the language from the JPA is taken from the federal statute, and it's actually under section 212. And under the New Mexico Union Agreement portion, number 3, upon request by the New Mexico CAP entity, the Secretary shall transfer to the New Mexico CAP entity the responsibility to design, build, or operate and maintain the New Mexico unit or all or any combination of those responsibilities. And then it goes on to say, provided that they adhere to the CUPA, which is the Consumptive Use and Forbearance Agreement, which actually dictates when you can take water, how you can take the water, and so on.
But let me ask you, the Secretary, she has said, yes, you can go ahead and build and design and operate and maintain. At that time, does she, prior to, or do you have to go back to her again to turn on the tap?
Actually, they are in charge of the allocation. They're in charge of the allocation, but the New Mexico AWSA Water are senior rights. The exchange with the Lower Indian community is a senior right, and therefore the state of New Mexico would have a senior right to that water.
So you're saying that they have the right to water, but wouldn't it be the Secretary of Interior to allow the water to be dispensed at that point?
I'm assuming that would be at the discretion of the Secretary, but by law, the senior water right holder gets the water before the junior water right holder would. So I'm assuming if they're going to distribute water to
How do you build
junior
all
water
that
right.
stuff and then her tell us we can't use the water?
Well, I don't think that was the intent of the, I don't think that was the
But that's
intent of
what,
the act.
but that THC, hey, you read that thing, and sometimes you have to read it 4 or 5 times and say, wait a minute, I'm gonna build this thing, and then they're gonna tell me I can't use it?
I don't think that that's within the right of the
I think you're right now, but it took
She
them
should be-
several meetings to figure it out.
I would think she'd be in direct violation of the
You'd
statute.
have to go back to another part of it, yeah. All right. Maybe on the JPA, explain on page 11, on number 5, fifth line, starting with New Mexico cap entities, shall be, ending at the paragraph.
Numbers,
Page 11, yes, V, under Roman numeral 5, fifth line, starting with New Mexico cap entity. Explain that to me.
the municipal cap entity shall be responsible for its share of operations, maintenance, and replacement costs for delivery of cap water in exchange for consumption of AWSA water from the Gila River and its tributaries in New Mexico by New Mexico unit. If you'll read the lines prior to that, the New Mexico cap entity will actually own the New Mexico unit. They'll own the diversion, they'll own the reservoir, they'll own everything related to delivery of the water. They'll actually contract for the right to the water. So, O&M costs will be entered into the overall project costs, so that you have to identify a way to pay for delivery of the water, just as you have to pay for the capital costs to construct it. And so it's no different than any other project, Commissioner, in that you've got to maintain what you build. And so those costs will be identified, I'm assuming, in the cost of the water. And so hopefully, in the wisdom of the cap entity, hopefully the debt service will be in such a way that delivery of the water will pay for all that. And we do have some ideas and additional ways to pay for O&M costs. Some have to do with energy supplies, potential energy supplies, and then of course the delivery of the water.
Okay. Next one, I've already asked this, but I'm going to ask it again. I'm going to put a little bit of caveat on the end of it. Of the cap entities and parties, who do you think will be involved? Who you think will be involved? How many of them will have the financial capacity to assist in this endeavor for dues, fees, taxes, cash support? And the caveat on this is that how many of them do you think really understood this JPA?
That's a pretty tough question, Commissioner. I assumed we tried to give them as much insight on the JPA as we possibly could. I know that's kind of been a huge burden on my own shoulders, being able to try and transfer the information that's been done between attorneys, between the ISC and relative people, but I think that they have a pretty good understanding. I think that it's kind of been, everyone's kind of been eased in the fact that they may or may not have to contribute to a unit project cost. As far as capacity, I'm assuming that only a small number of entities will be able to contribute. Depending on what type of contribution you're saying. For instance, I'm assuming that the irrigators, once they can see a benefit from potential water, anytime you have water delivery, then you see financial benefit. And so I think that financial benefit will be directly related to the O&M costs that we just spoke about. So I think that in the term contribution is a pretty broad term. So whether it's monetary contribution up front for capital costs or contributions later on when they're actually purchasing the water and paying gross receipts.
I go out there and hoe weeds and take care of the Grant County?
I'm assuming they gotta do what they gotta do. But we also have to see
Sure.
that our agricultural community, I mean, they're an asset to our community, and so I think we have to realize that.
The next one, let's go into some protections that is written into this under page 12 and 13, 5Y. Has to do with sovereign immunity and part of it, and then some further protections as far as the statutes of the state of New Mexico and also the Constitution.
Well, it's
Explain that, please.
my understanding that the Mexico Joint Powers Act, although the cap entity has to realize that it doesn't have sovereign immunity, each individual member still, under the Joint Powers Agreement Act, still retains their right to sovereign immunity, which gives them protection under the Act. We also do have a sentence in at the bottom of page 12. It says, nothing in this agreement shall be construed as creating liability on the part of the parties hereto for the actions or decisions of the Mexico cap entity. So that does take some liability away. I'm assuming that if you're an attorney, you can find holes in anything, and that's what your job is to do. But the fact
And
is,
fill those holes.
well, I'm assuming that's probably
That's their job.
that's what their job is to do. But the Act, Joint Powers Agreement Act, does give the county to retain their sovereign immunities. So, in my understanding, that means that the Grant County can't be sued for actions done by the cap entity, even though they're a member under this Joint Powers Agreement.
Let's see.
But I'm not an attorney. All these questions seem to be kind of legal-like, and it's just my understanding of what.
Under the Joint Powers Agreement Act, the entity created under a JPA is treated as a separate entity from the members. I believe.
41-4.
No, I'm gonna have to. I highlighted it, but I just highlighted.
Just gave Commissioner Hall a break for Abby looks good.
NMSA 1978, sections 11-1-1 through 11-1-7.
It's NMSA 1115. Take a look at A and B. Then that describes the separation of the entities. I think there's a lot of confusion about that, but the enabling statute that allows us to enter into a JPA tells us that the statute that gives us the authority to do this tells us that what we create in a JPA, the entity, is separate from the members. Now, if we start getting involved in the daily operations of the cap entity, you guys, the commissioners, yeah, we're going to be liable for our own actions. But merely having a member on that board is not going to somehow join us, fuse us with that entity. I mean, the whole purpose is to create a separate entity by all the members. Anyway, so if you want to take a look at that statute, I think it's helpful in finding a description of how the entities state are separate.
Sufficient right there, Commissioner?
All right, go ahead. He's still got some pages.
That's still got another page or two. Explain to me on page 17, under XD, where they talk about termination and our responsibilities.
On D,
Judge Chair.
10D, in the event of withdrawal by a party from this agreement prior to termination of this agreement, the withdrawing party shall be obligated to honor all commitments made to the Mexico cap entity before the withdrawing party is withdrawn. Moreover, the withdrawal party cannot be entitled to refunds of any amounts paid. In the event that this governing body decides they want to contribute to the Mexico cap entities or to the Mexico unit, they will be obligated to those funds.
So let's say we're going to put in $1 million.
If you put in $1 million,
All right.
if
Say
you
we're
put
going
in
to
$1
put in
million,
$1 million, and then we decide, before we give them the million, we say, I don't want to do it any longer. You're responsible for that million.
That's correct.
So we got to be careful what we offer.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sparing you a whole bunch of these. I thought, well, it may go too long. This is a good one. One of the things I did a little footwork on this and went to some communities. How many communities or political subdivisions really want this AWSA water?
Well, we know the city of Deming, certainly does. Certainly,
I would too if I lived in Deming.
yeah, they certainly do. And that's directly related to, what's now a 33,000 acre feet deficit annually for the members aquifer. And those numbers come from, the Education Commission and apparently they're using pretty good science in that they're using almost,
How many acre feet?
I think it's 33,000 acre feet.
Per,
I think it's an annual.
over, this is gonna make that up.
Maybe that's not correct. I know they're losing almost a foot of reserves in the aquifer annually. Now they've identified that, almost a foot. And so I'll have to get back. I know there's 33,000.
Does anyone else want it?
Excuse me?
Does anyone else want it?
The agriculture community.
The Valley would like to have it, some of them
The
would.
Gila irrigators, the Verdon Valley irrigators, there are other potential municipal,
How about the incorporated communities in Grand County?
to this point, they haven't shown any interest because, they feel that they could satisfy what they need by drilling another well. So, I guess apparently they have, our concern is whether or not the demand is for today, but the demand, in 50 or 100 years. We don't know what that demand is going to be. I'm assuming that, the municipalities in Arizona and in California and in Nevada potentially figure they had enough water to last them forever and ever too, but it's not happening that way.
Okay. So what is our being the county, what is our timetable as far as this JPA is concerned? Describe the events.
The Interstate Stream Commission has set a date of July 3rd, in order to, so that they may approve
July 3rd for what?
July 3rd, 2015.
To do what?
To submit a resolution from the governing body to enter into the joint powers agreement. And then at their July meeting, they will approve they will actually approve the members of the CAP entity to form the CAP entity. At that time, the New Mexico Union Agreement will begin the process to be submitted to the Secretary, and this is kind of a date that they've set in September, so that they have a couple of months to review it before the agreement has to be signed in November.
Where's DFA?
That's what I'm I did communicate with one of the ISC attorneys to see what they were thinking about when they were going to submit, and she actually thought the turnaround was going to be really fast. It surprised me that we're supposed to turn in our resolutions by July 3rd, and then she thought that during the week of July 6th is when they're going to submit the signed JPA. So she's thinking that she's going to collect signature pages really fast. The DFA. For approval, because all JPAs have to be approved with DFA.
That could take 6 months.
Who knows?
The last agreement we needed from DFA in a hurry took forever.
It's possible if our ducks are in a row, they'll move quickly. I don't know. The DFA, I mean.
I think you've already answered this, or I've asked it and you've answered it. Can the CAP entities force or cause the parties, Grant County, is the one I'm concerned about, to spend money we've not agreed to through the JPA.
I'm thinking that we went over paragraph 4F, I guess on page 4, or 3F, excuse me.
Thought we had.
And, but also, something to take in consideration. Grand County could potentially not join the JPA, and the CAP entity that is formed could potentially have a project that could potentially impact Grand County residents, though. So, I think that it is...
Taking my fire away, man.
There is some concern that, anything, the decision the CAP entity makes could directly affect, our residents, and so that's something to take into consideration.
I'll wind it up with that. My dilemma on my vote Thursday is going to be, do we not sign and have someone else make decisions on how they want to use the Gila River water? Because remember, if we walk away from the table, there will be other parties of the CAP at that table making decisions for us, and we won't be involved, and we have no say. You will have no say unless you go in with someone else. Correct?
That's good.
So we either know this JPA in and out, watch what is going on with the CAP entity as a county, and try to manipulate through a very, very weak JPA. Be vigilant. Or walk away from the table and suffer the consequences. I'm done.
All done? Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one more comment. I hope that I haven't disappointed the commission in my representation of Grand County. This is a pretty difficult thing. It kind of came within a 3 months time after it was signed. I tried to represent not only Grant County but the Gila San Francisco Water Commission, and I just hope that I haven't not done the job that I was supposed to have done. So anyway, that was just my last comment.
Okay. Please feel free to ask for any additional information on my questions. I think I got this agreement about 10 days ago. Is that about right? And I guess the statement that this reminds me of more than anything was, I had to relate this to a quote from a University of Wisconsin philosophy professor, Lester Hunt, that a horse or a camel is just a horse created by a committee. And that's exactly what this is. This is an agreement created by a committee. And you can see it as you read through it. There are statements that contradict themselves. I mean, they go so far as to give the county ability to tax. I appreciated that in this JPA. We already had that. And they can't take it away in the JPA either. So, that being said, I'll start off on my questions.
He can't hear you.
Who can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? No. Okay. You heard the joke about the horse, right? Or do you need that again? All right. What group of individuals were tasked with making the decision on whether to ask the Secretary of Interior for the permission or the right or whatever to divert? Was that ISC?
What group of individuals?
Yeah, what group? Was that the ISC that sent the letter asking?
Yes. Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. And
So
they were tasked. That was their task, and that task is identified in the statute itself.
So that decision's already been made?
That decision has been made.
Okay. does this JPA, if the parties to this JPA meet and they find that diversion is not practical, not financially feasible, is this the group that would stop that also?
I'm assuming that if they found that the project was unfeasible, between the NEPA process, which is tasked to the Bureau of Reclamation, through the 30% engineering design, I think it would be actually a combination of all the entities involved. The CAP entity does have the authority to enter into agreement with the Secretary of Interior to take the project, take the design, everything. In discussions that I've had, I don't think that the BOR and the ISC, they're not going to go away by any means. They're still tasked to ensure that a project is environmentally feasible, not only economically. The Secretary itself is tasked in making a decision based on economic feasibility. So I'm assuming that without identifying funding sources, the CAP entity would be required to put a stop to it. They wouldn't be able to afford it.
How much money is available under the first and second portions of the Arizona Water Settlement Act?
Cash in hand, between 110 and 120 million.
On the first portion? Or both portions?
Both portions.
120.
That's total in-hand dollars. And that would be a 90 million plus 34 million, and then they've had some expenses in there. Potentially, if there's 4% made over, and it's in here, I forgot, I'm at a loss, they could potentially be up to 62 million. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, but it's going to be 34 million.
Okay. What is the cost to pay back the grit for water per acre foot?
Currently, they've identified a cost. You mean the to the Central Arizona project?
Yeah.
Currently, they've identified at about $164 an acre feet, per acre foot. But that's just the exchange cost. That wouldn't include any O&M costs, any costs related to debt service, anything like that.
How much water is available just off the Gila, not to San Francisco, on any 10-year period? I don't think you can use a year because there's dry years, there's wet years. Do you have any of that data?
100,000, well, now there's a differentiation between how much is available and potential safe yield. 10,000 acre
Let's go
foot.
with safe yield then.
Excuse me?
Safe yield then.
Safe yield. They've identified about 7 to 8,000 acre feet annually, which would be between 70 and 80,000 acre feet in a 10-year period. An acre foot is about 325,800 and some
320
gallons. So. Just for an understanding of how much water we're talking about, the town of Silver City uses about 2,500 acre feet a year, and the city of Deming uses about 3,000. So it would be enough to supplement either one of those almost double. And that is in the event that the San Francisco members on the San Francisco don't come up with a diversion project themselves. The additional 4,000 acre feet in the San Francisco would be available in the Gila.
I'm trying to read through these so I don't duplicate Commissioner Hall, so please bear with me. I'm going to ask it again. I think it's been answered. Does the JPA require a member to support the cap with dollars?
Doesn't require. They may.
When they do the bylaws, it talks about membership dues.
Potentially, there would be a membership dues for the operations of a CAP entity. Currently, the CAP entity is not formed, so they haven't identified operational costs. They haven't identified any of those things until we're just not there yet, Commissioner.
So we're not responsible for any dollars that we don't agree to.
That's correct. Even user fees, you don't have to pay user fees if you don't want to. You can.
Well, user fees would have to be users, and I don't see us as a user.
Well, not user fees. I'm assuming.
Dues.
Dues.
But if we vote, if there's a set of bylaws that require a fee of dues, whether we vote for them or don't vote for them, the group voted for them, so we would be responsible for those.
That's correct.
But so would every ditch and everybody else.
That's correct. Currently, we're in the same thing with the Gila San Francisco Water Commission.
So that's something, if this did get signed, it would be something that we would have to watch very closely. Does the JPA give the CAP the authority to tax?
The CAP entity is not a taxing authority.
I agree.
Unless and until they are, if they go to the legislature and ask that they become a recognized subdivision of the state, then at that point they would potentially have a taxing authority.
And by signing their JPA, Grant County in no way authorizes the CAP to use any of its taxing authority, correct?
Excuse me?
By signing the JPA, we as Grant County do not give them authority to use any taxing authority we have.
That's
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, we would need to be authorized to do something like that.
Okay. And here it talks about bonding, but it does not expressly give the CAP the authority to bond.
Mr. Chairman, I think that comes under the JPA.
Under the JPA.
Excuse me, the joint powers, the statute, sorry. My brain's not working.
Which statute's that?
NMSA 1117.
So they can bond, but they can't tax. So the only way they can pay this back is through user fees, or leasing water, or the various other things.
They would have to come up with some sort of pledge to pay back those bonds.
Because a bond,
And usually revenue bonds, it's like a user fee.
well, you and I went through a revenue bond about a year ago, and we saw what it takes to get one.
It is something else.
If this entity can actually pull this off, it will.
I'm saying, and if you look at that, people are very worried that somehow Grant County is going to be maybe tricked into pledging some money or to pay back bonds on behalf of the CAP entity, but I assure you there's no way of sneaking it in. It's such an arduous process that Grant County would absolutely know whether or not they were pledging money. I mean, so that's just not something that we wouldn't be aware of.
So currently, Anthony, the projects, I guess there's been some preliminary work on projects and such. And this commission has gone on record as supporting a healthy river and permanent irrigation solution for the Gila Valley. We have a resolution saying we agreed to that over 2 years ago. We also in that resolution say we do not agree with sending water to the Members Basin. I assume that whoever represents us, and if we do sign this, will adhere to those wishes of the commission. I've gone on record now for 3 elections that I am not against diversion, but I'm also I'm not for the mega diversion. I do believe a healthy river can be maintained if you can store a little water. So, next question. The second fiscal agent. Commissioner Holland, you talked about that for a second. Does that second fiscal agent have to be a party to the agreement?
I think it's actually identified by the CAP entity.
So, could you pick somebody outside the CAP entity?
I think that, I'm not sure. That's
Guess I could look that up myself. I just thought about it whenever you were talking about it.
Paragraph P, the parties to this agreement shall designate a political subdivision of the state other than the ISC who is a signatory to this agreement.
So yes, they are. Okay. What happens if we don't sign the JPA by July 3rd?
According to the JPA, we would have to request the CAP entity to become a member, and it would take 2/3 vote of the existing members in order to approve Grant County as a member of the JPA. That's my understanding.
That's if we wait until after DFA approval.
Well, that's correct. Yeah.
Which we think is going to be fairly quickly, though.
That's my impression, yeah. It's also my impression that the ISC is not open for negotiations anymore. Based on my discussions with other attorneys that were involved and my attendance at that last ISC meeting.
They don't even want to fix the things that are all messed up?
Anthony, I don't know if you have a different impression.
Like I said, I appreciate them giving me taxing authority.
Well, I think they did leave it open for amendment to the agreement, but they
In the agreement itself.
I think that it has to be done by written approval from each member.
Well, it needs to be approved by all members,
All signatories.
if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think that I've weeded through these questions and tried to not go over anything that,
Say what, the membership of this JPA would do at a future time, but we do know, but we do have an impression of what the ISC will not do at this time, which they don't seem to be open to further negotiations. They're very tied to their schedule.
okay, I don't think I have any further questions that haven't already been asked. You want to close? I mean, what is the biggest fear?
My biggest fear?
Yeah. On this JPA.
I don't really have too much fear on the JPA itself. I think that everybody, and myself included, has a concern about the overall cost of the project. It's a way in. That's something that I continue to voice, not only pretty openly in public meetings, is that there's got to be a balance between the capital cost of the project and the benefit. And while municipal water does have a greater benefit, greater value, municipal water does than agriculture, I don't know in this case whether it'd be, a benefit. We don't have those numbers. That's my biggest fear, is that we don't have the numbers of the benefit. And that's that's supposed to be part of the process, the planning process. Anytime we do planning for even our own projects, we have to measure benefit, and we have to measure what we need, the needs of the community are. As a representative of Grant County, I try to voice the opinion of our commission. As a chairman of the Gila San Francisco, the intent of that is to secure the water. And not at any time have they ever said they want to secure the water at any cost. All they want to do is secure their right. And like you say, most of the members are farmers, and so that's directly related to the agricultural benefits. And at this point, and this commission has voiced their opinion about the agricultural benefit, and I also said that's the most feasible part of the project. So I don't fear too much, but also I'm not a commissioner either. You know, I do what you guys appoint me to do.
I agree.
Well, there's nothing I would rather see, not many things I would rather see than a healthy agricultural environment on the Gila like it was when I was a kid. You probably remember just the end of that, because it was about 1968, 1969 when it kind of started changing, and it was a totally different community. I'd love to see that area flourish again, and the farmers markets be able to actually have produce and such again. So that's going to weigh into my decision. But also, what's going to weigh into my decision, I'm going to concur with Commissioner Hall, which being around Commissioner Hall for the last 3 years has been a blessing. He's always does his homework and is prepared to debate anything that he's going to think is important. But one thing I'm going to agree with him today, that's the hardest thing, is trying to decide whether to sign it's not even not a great agreement. It's a poorly written agreement. It is written by and I know you guys tried the best you could, and getting that many people on the same page with an entity that is refusing to work with you is going to be hard. But the thing is going to be signing this or not being part of the process forward. That's the toughest decision. Not being part of the process, that's hard too. So, with that being said, unless there's anything else, we'll move on.
The only other comment that I have is potentially the need or the demand, and whenever my children have grandchildren, we can't identify that right now. And if that water is needed at that time, and we do nothing right now, I just...
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, then let's move on to the agenda item that's next, whatever it may be. Madam Manager.
Item CC, approve, disapprove resolution R15-18 budget adjustment. Linda, do you want to summarize that?
Thank you, Sharon. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have several budget adjustments, and I'll just go over them quickly. We have a adjustment of cash transfers out from the general fund of $123,154, and that'll go into the lease agreements and NMFA loan debt, to the hold harmless GRT debt, to the Grant County shooting range. And then we have increase in revenue and expenditures. The total increase in revenue is $7,073,599.74, and the increase in expenditures is $8,537,868.89. And this is to cover additional expenses in the Upper Mingus Fire Department, lodger's tax, the vehicle replacement program, group insurance, the Forest Service 2015 cooperative agreement, the indigent fund, the DARE program, the detention center debt, care prisoners, the lease agreements with NMFA, the GRT debt service, the capital projects construction fund, the North Hurley wastewater system debt service, the 2015 senior services grant, the grant that we received for the business conference center, the Grant County shooting range, the fairgrounds livestock building, the emergency management 2013 grant, the 2014 100 days and nights of summer grant, and the 2014 Stone Garden grant. And we also have intra-budget transfers in the amount of $357,603. And this is again for just transferring funds from within the debt service and within the general fund to cover expenses in the sheriff's office that we're taking it from planning department. Have any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Charlie?
Item DD, approve, disapprove Resolution R-15-19, a resolution asserting legal standing and formally requesting coordination status with the National Forest Service regarding the Gila National Forest Land Management Plan revision. This would be a resolution we would submit to the U.S. Forest Service requesting that the county be formally recognized as a coordinating agency and to be able to participate in the forest plan revisions. Item EE, approve, disapprove Resolution R-15-20, a resolution ratifying the Grant County Detention Center policy and procedures that have been in place since 2003. I'm going to let Abby explain why we're doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These policies have been in place since at least 2003. They're the standard operating procedures of the Grant County Detention Center. On more than one occasion, it's been questioned whether the commissioners approve of these policies. I've been through quite a few commissioners now, and now I'm my second manager, and my impression has been that there's been no problem from, or no questioning from the commissioners or the previous county manager, who clearly followed these standard operating procedures. However, because it is being questioned whether you all actually approve of these, I thought I would just put them on the agenda for your ratification. I'm not making any revisions from what we've been following since 2003. It's exactly what's been in place since then. We are working on a new set of Grant County Detention Center standard operating procedures. It's a very large policy, and that's still in the process, but when that happens, when we have revised those, we'll put those in front of you, and we will make sure you have a full copy and you can review the whole thing. You have a CD in your notebook. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. You can take a browse through them. They're really long. As you know, we're highly regulated and we have a lot of policies to follow. If you have any questions about them, you're welcome to ask me. But again, nothing is changing right now. We're simply asking you to make it clear to the public that these are the policies of the Grant County Detention Center, and that you've been approving, you've approved of them thus far, because we've been following them. So I'd just like you to ratify and make that clear to the public and anyone else that's questioning it.
I think we ought to have Commissioner Hall read all those.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I think that's the end of the agenda. So we'll move into county reports, and I know this guy's got a hospital to run and he needs to get back over there and run it. So Brian, you're first.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning. Yeah.
Everybody's busy, right? But appreciate the dialogue about water rights, extremely enlightening, big decision, one of many for you all. Quite a few, just small items, and in no particular order. I'll start out with finance. We're coming to the end of our fiscal year, end of June. We're currently about $1.5 million in the red on the revenue expense side, and we're hoping to get close to break even by the end of the month. We're really close to our budget. We knew this was going to be a challenging year for us with our expenditures around IT needs, our big IT overhaul, and other physician practices. On the cash side, though, we've improved our cash compared to last year from about 128 days of cash last year. We're currently sitting at about 140 days of cash. So overall, our financial position is still very good. We did in April receive our sole safety net care pool provider payment of about $1.7 million, thanks to our county's contribution to the state. It's interesting, you guys may be hearing that some of the counties have still not put that money forward, and yet the county hospitals have received that safety net care pool money, and so now they're having discussions about whether they should indeed pull that money back. So once again, we thank you guys.
Is that in the southeast? Is that all of them?
Yeah, there are some of them, but there's at least 10 others.
10?
Yeah, there's quite a few counties. I was surprised to hear that list. But thank you guys for your investment in our hospital. We also want to thank Senator Morales and Representative Zimmerman with the capital outlays that they've pledged to Gila Regional, $100,000 each. So about $200,000 over the next few months we'll be able to put forward a new piece of equipment. We have it earmarked for a nuclear medicine camera, which is a diagnostic device that costs approximately $300,000, but that will really help defer some of those costs. Next on the list, I want to just really publicly thank, on behalf of Gila Regional, Pam Archibald. Many years of service on our board. She is not seeking reappointment. And obviously, one of our other board members want to thank him for his service, Jeremiah Garcia, who is seeking reappointment, along with 3 other highly qualified candidates. And of course, we look forward to your decision on Thursday to see who will be our board member supporting us in this next term.
You're assuming we're going to have enough time to do that?
Yes, making that assumption, yes. Just thanks to the community and participants and our Gila Regional Foundation for putting on another successful golf tournament, the Gila Classic. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for your participation in that. We had 23 teams out there. We don't have the report yet on the funds that were raised, but we just thank everybody involved. And fourth?
Somebody didn't get your pencil right.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want me to play golf, it's dangerous.
Yes.
Right? Mr. Carrillo, I almost hit him one day. He said, don't play no more. Twice.
I want to just make a statement about Grant County Health Council. Priscilla spoke about that earlier. I just want to thank everybody involved and for all the years of service and the great work done by the Health Council. The fact that we're needing to pull back on our resources from that, our human resources, does not mean that we don't fully support the Health Council, and in whatever way that they still exist. I'm personally a member of the steering committee. We will continue, Gila Regional will continue to support the efforts of the Health Council. So thank you for Charlene and your consideration in that. We had a recent Joint Commission survey. That's our accrediting body. Every 3 years they come to our hospital and to survey us, and it's tied to reimbursement, but it's really more an indicator of consumer confidence in Gila Regional. We finished that survey. We did much, much, much better than the survey we had last in 2012, and the items that did come up on the survey we're already working on, and we expect full accreditation within the next 60 days. So that survey went well. Just really thrilled with all the work that went into that survey and all the people involved. Of note, Dr. Sherpa, if any of you know Dr. Sherpa, she's one of our hospitalists, works directly in our hospital taking care of patients. She's a community member. She works for a contracted company of ours, ESS. They're a nationwide company, and she was recently voted the medical director of the year for that company. And if you've ever worked with Dr. Sherpa, you would know why. So we're really proud of Dr. Sherpa and that award. Next item is a follow-up for Commissioner Hall. Asked a question when I was last here about some rough numbers about insurance membership over these last couple years, and I have those numbers. I committed to reporting back on that. You asked about the Medicare exchanges. In 2014, about 32,000 people signed up for the exchanges, and in 2015, an additional 20,000 people signed up for the exchanges. On the Medicaid expansion, that amounted over these last 2 years about an additional 200,000 New Mexicans signing up for that as a result of the Medicaid expansion.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We have some pending construction we've been talking about. We're finally to the point where we're about to do some patient flow analysis. And this is a construction project that involves our OR recovery room and our labor and delivery rooms, which has been a point of interest for many years, that our labor and delivery department is, not adequate for the people that come through that. So we're getting ready to move forward with a flow study so that we understand the patient flow through that area. Next will be architectural activities, and next we'll be looking at finalizing a presentation for our board, and then talking about how we might finance that project before we move forward. I just want you to know that that continues to move forward. I want you to know that our CNO, Pat Shaka, Pat is really a legend in the nursing. She's been a nurse now for 53 years, and she's retiring in the next 2 months. And we've started the interview process for that, so we'll be replacing that position in the very near future. But when you hear about that, I wanted you to know it's really under good terms. Pat leaves an incredible legacy in nursing, and we'll be replacing that position, critical position for us. And we're also currently gathering our candidate pool for our CFO position. So we're interviewing around 2 of our executive leader positions, as we speak, 2 very important positions. I think the last thing that 2 things, 2 quick ones. One is our patient financial services, our revenue cycle. We've been talking about that for the last several months. We have an outsourced group, consulting group in with us, working with our billing and collecting department. Still lots of challenges in that area, very complex, but we've identified a significant amount of dollars that have been left on the table because of challenging processes and lots of complexity there, but we're working on getting all those funds into our bottom line, and that will happen over this next month or 2. Been a lot of work around that. The last thing I wanted to mention is there's a lot of dialogue right now about the Accountable Care Act, and specifically about the direction our community, our medical community, will take. And so there's a lot of dialogue around our physician community about joining an accountable care organization, and I won't get into the real complexities of that. Just want you to know that there's a lot of dialogue, and there's a couple competing approaches. Gila Regional's approach is that we band together as a group of, as a medical community, to make sure that we serve our community's healthcare needs the best way we can, keep as many people local as appropriate, and that we share in the decision-making on that process. And so that will start to develop over this next month or 2. And the last one is, just on a federal level, there's a really important decision happening in this next week. The Supreme Court is going to vote on a point of contention. This is with King versus Burwell, and this is related to a lawsuit that asserts that the tax credits that are currently being paid to health insurers in the 35 or so states that are part of the exchanges, that is, under attack. And if that is reversed, it'll have a significant impact on all of the people that are receiving support to get insurance. And that would be a challenge to those people, and lots of trickle-down effects from there. So Supreme Court will be ruling on that by the end of this month, and then we'll see what the outcome is from there. And I stand for questions.
No? Thanks, Brian. Appreciate the report. Thanks for coming down every month for us.
You're welcome. No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
You bet. You ready? Yes, sir. All right, let's go.
Chairman Katz, Commissioner Hall, respectfully submit my report of May 13th through June 18th, 2015. Item number 1, the status remains the same. Item number 2, we have 3 part-time vacancies, facility. Item number 3, status remains the same also. On the training update, item number 4, Sergeant Lucero, Officer Rodriguez, and Officer Gojkovic will be attending crisis intervention training at the end of this month. On the inmate support program, status remains the same. We're continuously meeting. In fact, we'll be meeting tomorrow to continue to try and get this, our program going and selecting some kind of a coordinator. Item number 6, recognition awards. We currently don't have any nominations, so that status remains the same. Item number 7 on our statistics, detention statistics, the average daily population for the reporting period of May 13th through June 18th is 69, which is 6 more than last month. The high population males is also 69, which is 17 more than last month. High population females is 14, which is 3 more than last month. For the month of May 13th through June 18th, there were 69 inmates booked into the facility, which were 6 more than last month reporting period, and this shows a slight increase in activity. The average length of stay for the reporting period is 9.85 days. And what I provided for you again was the current demographic snapshot of the inmate population statistics by gender and also ethnicity, to give you an idea of the population that are being housed in the facility. Item number 8, the monthly arrest totals for, this is for the entire month of May, the arrest totals by agency. Silver City Police Department had 102, Grant County Sheriff Department had 24, New Mexico State Police had 18, Baird Police had 12, Santa Clara had 5, and Hurley PD had 6. Item number 9, on our detention facility, we conducted 33 district court transports. Division 1, we had 35. Division 2, Magistrate Court, we had 6. Silver City Municipal Court, we had 4. Santa Clara had 0, and Baird Municipal Court had 0. We had 16 medical transports that we conducted from the facility to the hospital. And the total number of transports for the reporting period is 94. Our jail utilization, the offense levels, we had 52 felonies, 89 misdemeanors, and then probation violations and other warrants are 116 for a total of 257. The total hours in custody were 77,463, and the sentencing shows an increase as compared to last month. And these are, again, this is just for the statistics of the entire month of May. That's my report, sir.
Thank you very much.
Just last week, we had our, what do you call it, the commissioners, keep trying to conclave, that's judiciary. But I listened to what was happening around the country, what's happening around the state, and the issues and such. I was really proud of our detention center. Good job, Mike. Yes, we do have work to do. We're always going to have work to do, but good job.
Well, I attribute that to the people that are working there, sir. I thank you very much, and I'll let them know.
In fact, I want to get together with you and go over some stuff that we talked about.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anthony, do you have anything else today? That bothered me a bit. Randy?
Well, my other job, we're continuing, of course, to work on the assessment districts in our office. Ray is trying to put together all the information needed for Wind Canyon now. On our next county commission meeting, we will bring a resolution to enter into the assessment district portion of. We had the public hearing portion. Now we had a 30-day period where anybody could actually object to the district court, and now we'll enter into a resolution to enter into the assessment district portion. So we'll have that on our next agenda, and hopefully soon after we will have the public hearing portion of the Wind Canyon assessment district. So I know those guys have been working hard. That one may go a little bit quicker in that they have done a lot of homework. The guys out there at Wind Canyon, they've done of course, I can't say that people from Loma Bear that haven't. They've been anxiously, waiting, but everybody's willing to help out whenever they're going to get some improvements to the roads. Also, I attended the Colonial Infrastructure one board meeting where they did finally approve the Colonias projects. We had 2 projects that were funded. One, the North Hurley project for construction portion of the roads and drainage, our first phase, where we awarded $629,000. The second one was the Tyrone ADA compliance, the sidewalks, where we were awarded $101,770. Also, the Rosedale Road project, we're trying to get that thing kicked off as quickly as we can. We've got some issues we're trying to work out with the Rosedale Water Association. We've got some adjustments to do with their utility, and they were actually going to vote in new board members, and they wanted us to wait until, I guess it's on the 23rd, they're going to vote new board members in, and after that we'll try and hammer out what we need from that association. We're into what's called a Section 7 consultation. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the Duck Creek Low Water Crossing. Earl's project has kind of turned into, I'm not saying a permitting nightmare, but because there's a potential for endangered species to be in the area, we're having to go through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. That's an extended permitting process, and so hopefully we can get that done. I'm assuming that Earl may have to ask for an extension of those dollars to get that done. And I'm assuming that potentially, with the way the new U.S. Waters decision and EPA requirements, potentially we may have to do this for all of the low water crossings that we do. So we're going to keep a close eye on that and what we're supposed to be doing. I think he had 2 more on the agenda for approval today, so we'll try and get started with those kind of early, just in case. But we'll ask the Army Corps, see if that's going to be necessary. The only other, we completed the surveys for the capital outlay for the $125,000 for the maintenance shop roof, and we are advertising for a planning assistant. Alicia resigned and got employment elsewhere. She's a resident of Lordsburg, and she found some employment down there, so it's been a little bit hectic in our office, but I'd like to thank Ray and Daniel for helping us out, and hopefully we can, business as usual. That's all my report is, Mr. Chairman.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just real quick, from Public Works standpoint, very busy at Baton Park Conference Center. This is the time of, pretty much graduation. Receptions are over, but now weddings and birthdays and everything else at the park. Trying to stay on top of that with all the trash and the weeds and everything. So the guys are doing a great job. Airport just is doing a really good job over there. As you know, we're selling a lot of fuel. Boutique Air is still buying. Forest Service is buying a lot of fuel from us. So we're hoping to maybe get a part-time position in there and help out with this on the weekends. With Black Hawk helicopters coming in as well from Homeland Security. So we are pushing a lot of fuel. I think that's great. It was a kind of touch and go at the start with the cost, but hopefully we're getting that under control and going to start to at least see us gain some funds from that. On the fire side, nothing from the VFDs. Hopefully that we did have the Treasure Mountain fire, which was kind of unique in a sense that we had private land, a piece of private land sitting right on the top of Treasure Mountain, surrounded by BLM, surrounded by state forest land, surrounded by the Forest Service. So we had all the agencies involved on that. I think that was a great opportunity for myself and the experience to work with all the agencies at one time. And as you know, I think everybody gets the updates on the fire. Currently, Grant County has the Moore Fire, which is probably the biggest. It's about 17 acres in the wilderness. They've got a Type 3 incident command team, which means pretty much got it under control, monitoring it. There's the Middle Fire, which is about 200 acres. It's not far from the Moore Fire, so they're kind of working on those together jointly. Other than that, Ketchikan County's got a few fires in their jurisdiction. There's been a lot of smoke, but doesn't mean that the fires are out of control. I think they're just maintaining, it's hot, and just settling in a lot of that smoke. So, other than that, unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Linda, you good for today? Okay, we'll move over. How about the sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You guys are aware we've been extremely busy with a lot of activity going on crime-wise here in Grant County. We're trying to keep up with it. Summer's here, so it's keeping us really busy. I'd just like to thank my staff for keeping up with everything that's going on and being available. I can report that we are fully staffed, so that has helped keeping up, and just want to get ready and get prepared for the 4th of July, because that will be a big event for us and keep us busy on that. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thanks, Sheriff. Mr. Assessor.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, thank you, Commissioner Hall, for calling in lunch. It's been a long one. Hey, for starters, I want to thank my employees. We're on the protest period at this moment, and we're reviewing all these properties, and due to the fact that we only had about 130 protests, we hired 2 appraisers and 1 parcel mapper and 1 title examiner, and I can't wait until they come in to help out. I will introduce them next month, if I may. My chief deputy, Jennifer Barraza, attended a sales ratio analysis there in Roswell, and we sent our results to Property Tax Division. They're due in July of 2015. On June 15, 2015, we sent off our certified values for 2015. I went over it with our county manager and our Commissioner Hall, and Commissioner Hall asked us a lot of questions, and I don't know why. But all the values pretty much stayed the same. Copper production's up about 26 million. Our state assessed property for 2015 is about, and this is all taxable value, our state assessed for 2015 is 50 million. Last year was 53 million, so we're down about 3 million. Our local assessment from the residential and non-residential, we're up about 9 million taxable value. I received a letter yesterday from the town of Silver City for a notification of the metropolitan redevelopment area for tax increment finance purposes, and they actually sent me a map where the downtown area is going to be targeted on redeveloping the downtown area. I do have a meeting with Mr. Brown on the 29th, Monday of June 29th, and we're going to speak about it, so I really don't know what exactly it's all entails, but I will give a complete report on that, Commissioner.
They've been talking about that for years, so it's nice that they finally came through with it. It'll be interesting to see what they're actually doing.
Actually, yes, they passed the ordinance May 12th of 2015. We did have a conference for the New Mexico Association of Counties, and it was very interesting. We spoke a lot about the valuation freeze of 65 years and older, and it was quite in detail to help out the seniors. At this moment, I will probably still accept the freeze for the 65 years and older. We also spoke about mailing out our notices of valuation electronically, and that's going to be an interesting task. We also spoke about the incentive pay and the clarification with the new law, and once again I spoke to our county manager about that, so we just need to clean up a little bit of the language. One thing I'd like to say, I'm part of the 101 things to do here for the kids here in Grant County, and we have a hike scheduled on July 6th at 6 o'clock. We're all going to meet at the Bonita Bakery, and I stand for questions.
Questions?
Thanks for triggering me on that.
Hey, like I said, I'm glad I spent those couple hours. It felt like 4, but thank you very much, Judge Hall.
They're rough on you. Final budget's not in. Does he know that?
Getting in, is everybody signed yet?
Alfred, how you doing?
Chairman, Mr. Hall, how you doing today? Steve can't be here today, he's out of town, but he asked me to step in just to give a report, what you do have on your thing. As of June, as of yesterday, we're at 90%. As of the report from May, we're ahead at 82,413. So we're doing very well as far as collections. We did send out our delinquent notices in the beginning of June, and we've just been getting the payments on that. Also, what we did to try to get ahead of the game is we sent out courtesy letters to all taxpayers that are delinquent from 2012, hoping that they will get in and pay by the end of this month, so that way they don't get on the list to property tax, and then they get assessed some more money. And so we're trying to, hopefully that helped out a little bit. And then, of course, in July, we'll be sending out the notice to the state, so they'll have the list so that they can come work them and hopefully not sell any properties. Hopefully we'll be able to collect the taxes on them to keep them off the list. So other than that, I stand for any questions. Thank you.
Rob, you got anything today?
Just business as usual in our office, Chairman, Commissioner Hall, so nothing really new to report.
Smooth and easy. That's what I like. Do you have anything today?
Just a couple things. In our office, we're wrapping up the end of the fiscal year, and so staff's extremely busy, so I appreciate everyone's patience with them as they try to get this done. Just want to report that our projects that are funded with the GRT are moving forward, the courthouse renovations, the conference center, and Commissioner Hall's substance abuse treatment facility are continuing to move forward. The only meeting I attended last week, I missed out on the Association of County stuff, but I did attend the multi-line workman's comp joint pool board meetings where they revised the bylaws to make them coincide with one another. And we do have a slight increase in workman's comp premiums this year, but it's due to salary increases, not due to losses. So it's only about 1.5%. So other than being extremely busy this time of year, I don't have anything else to report.
We don't have an executive session today? I asked. Do you want to say anything? Or okay. And then I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.